I cannot be the only one in DC watching my discretionary spending right now, but you still want to go out and have a good time, right? So where in DC can you see world-class artists for free? The Library of Congress. They have presented live music in one of the city's most iconic spaces for more than 100 years. The library is seriously so gorgeous. I checked out their schedule, and there are some things on there that I am genuinely excited about checking out. On April 1st, we have opera singer Janae Bridges with the Catalyst Quartet. Let me tell you, I looked up a video of her singing, and sis has pipes. On May 15th, we have jazz great Christian McBride, who is a 9-time Grammy winner. And on June 4th, we have DC native, Howard alum, and rising jazz singer Ekep Nkwele. The Library of Congress has such a wide range of events, there is truly something for everyone. Tickets are available now at loc.gov/concerts. See a show that's sold out? Don't sweat it. The Library of Congress offers day of rush passes to all performances. So see what's coming up at loc.gov/concerts.
Today on CityCast DC, we're talking about the jaw-dropping cuts at the Post and the future of DC local news, including some exciting stuff cooking at CityCast, plus a shocking investigation into outlandish spending on so-called violence interrupter programs in DC, a baby elephant ISO a name, and in a members-only fourth segment, what you need to know about the latest congressional vote that could blow a hole in our city's government. I think I have figured out a way to explain it without getting too deep in the wonkery. I'm here with my CityCast colleague, Annie Reese, and CityCast's Chief Executive Officer, the Big Cheese, David Plotz, Prince of Thieves, is here. Today is Friday, February 6th. I'm Michael Schaefer. Here's what DC's talking about. Hey, Annie.
Hello.
Hey, David.
Hello.
So you guys, I kind of felt this week like we witnessed an act of vandalism.
Absolutely.
In a year that have felt like a year of vandalism of like the Kennedy Center and the federal workforce and all kinds of things that have, as like a child of DC, have felt sort of like permanent fixtures on the Washington landscape. And now the Post, where I can't discern a whole lot of rhyme or reason for how they're doing this, or I guess I hear the rhyme or reason, but it seems really boneheaded. But here we are.
The great journalist Ashley Parker, an ex-Washington Postie, has a wonderful story in The Atlantic this week about what it was like to be at the Post and what the Post has meant. And it begins, we're witnessing a murder. And it casts it as this sort of deliberate act of sabotage by owner Jeff Bezos and, to a certain extent, the publisher Will Lewis, to undermine what has made the Washington Post so great. And I can't speak to their motivations at all, but it is, as a Washingtonian who has literally been reading the Post practically since the cradle, certainly since 1979 when the Orioles had a World Series run.
Practically the cradle. I love that.
I mean, we got it. I bet I've been in a household that has been receiving the Washington Post for 56 years. I mean, the minute I was born, we had the Post, and Mike, you the same, probably.
At last summer, for my mom's 80th birthday, I found all these old slides in their basement. I scanned them into pictures, and so there were these baby pictures of me, and like literally on the floor next to me, in August of 1973, are copies of the Washington Post front page.
That's amazing, and I think, like, to your point, David, one of the things that has been so gutting about watching this unfold is just this prevailing feeling that it did not have to be this way. Like, it just does not seem like it needed to play out this way. And, for any journalist coming up, I mean, this is like the home of Watergate, like it just, there's such a sort of storied element to the Post, both nationally and especially for DC residents locally.
Right. That's the thing is that, yeah, it's the home of Watergate, home of like great foreign reporting, all that. But, this was, for a lot of my life and a lot of my career as a journalist, it was a place that could make or break a mayoral candidate or a city council candidate or a restaurant or a play. And, they widely believed that they were responsible for putting Marion Barry over the top in his first election. famously, post-lightning was a phrase. Like could be the subject of like a
Sounds like
song.
something from Greece.
Right, but it was a positive.
Post-lightning.
Somebody could be the subject of a sob story about the terrible circumstance of their life. It appears in the Washington Post, and all of a sudden, donations come flooding in. And it was like Jack Schaefer said yesterday, it was sort of the thing that set the news agenda. It was not the only news outlet in Washington, but it was the thing that set the agenda that sort of officially determined like this story is a real story, or this subject is a subject that merits our thinking about, over years.
And that everyone else kind of measured themselves against.
And I want to emphasize, because of course CityCast DC is about DC as a city. The Post is this tremendous national resource, and it seems committed, does seem like that's where they're going to invest, is continuing to invest in political and business coverage. Although, God, there's so much of it. Your former home, Politico, Axios, like it's endless, the number of outlets that are covering insider politics. But so they're going to do that. But how much of what the Post was an incredible educator, unifier, connector form of citizenship for Washington. For Washingtonians, and like the percentage of people who received the Washington Post at its peak is extraordinary. Like it was unparalleled.
It's like 70% or something.
Yeah, and it was like a unifier in the way that people talk about the commanders were like this. Like it was the commanders and the Post were kind of the unifying institutions. And I understand it's a more fractured media environment, and the Metro coverage is hard to pull off, and like people are getting their information from a lot of other sources, and including us. But it is a shame not to have something which is the unifying force that the Post was able to be for this city for so long.
I think one of the underreported things this week about the things that got cut, they cut almost all of the critics. Didn't cut friend of CityCast Phil Kennicott, but like theater critic, music critic. But like if you think of theater, right? Like this DC has a pretty strong theater community. I was talking to someone in that world today who was in conversations about like, should all of us theaters like band together and hire a theater critic? Which, anyone who's a journalist can tell you why that's like a troubling idea. But like, it's a really important thing if you are producing something that is of merit to the world, to get the word out, to have somebody review it. And even if that person's willing to say like, you know what, you sucked. That show is no good. It is, so there's all of these other ripple effects of this on things that officially have nothing to do with the news and are not like City Hall or whatever. But like, we have a lot of people who are employed in theater in Washington, and a whole lot of people who actually like spending the not insignificant amount of money it takes to buy tickets.
Yeah, my master's project back in the day actually was on the changing role of the theater critic, because if you think about it, like theater is so inherently local, and as we've seen so many newspapers around the country shrinking, that those are often some of the first jobs to go, and like those are, you can review movies or whatever, but those can be seen by the masses. Like regional theater is this like inherently local community thing. And when you stop having any of that dialogue or feedback loop, it really does hurt like cities' identities for sure.
Yeah. And similarly, I mean, as I don't go to the theater, but I do go to a lot of sports, they have gotten rid of the sports section, which debate that a lot, but they've also gotten rid of the All Met. So the All Met is this function that the Post has served, where they've identified the top high school athletes in different sports around the metro area, and it's just something that people love. It is absolutely beloved, and it is utterly a connector for this community. I bet Julia Caron, our producer, was a Washington Post All Met back in the day.
I don't know if she was an All Met athlete, but she was the writer of All Mets.
Oh, I bet she was an All Met athlete and the writer of All Mets.
I wouldn't put it past her. I'd vote for her.
Hockey and journalism, she can do it all.
There was a huge. I'm a basketball ignoramus, but there was apparently a huge trade Wednesday from the Washington Wizards, the day that the Post cuts came down. And this is like the biggest trade in their history. And basketball people say this is really exciting, and it positions themselves for. And the point is, it was not reported in the Washington Post, the local daily newspaper of Washington, D.C., because they have closed the sports section. Amazing.
Do you want to ask me what we're going to do about it?
So, yes. So
Go ahead and ask me, Mike. Ask me what we're going to do about it.
Well, look it I suspect in the next 6 months, and certainly on social media yesterday, there was a lot of like, who's going to do this and what someone needs to do this. And there's going to be a lot of ferment around building things. And the one early piece of that, it actually comes from us, from you, David. We're about to expand pretty significantly.
Yeah. Well, so we are owned. CityCast is owned. So CityCast is a national network. So we're in 13 cities, which DC is one. But we're owned by a parent company, the Graham Holding Company, which is a DC, Arlington-based company. And you probably know it. The Graham Holding Company was the Washington Post company. It was owned. The Graham family owned the Washington Post through the Washington Post Company. And when they sold the Washington Post to Jeff Bezos, they renamed their company the Graham Holding Company. And Graham Holding is just this magnificent local treasure, and they own CityCast, among other things. And they really believe in the importance of a independent, powerful, functioning local media ecosystem in cities. And they've put money behind that in the form of launching CityCast. And now with their backing, we're going to invest to help build CityCast DC into ultimately what I will expect will be the largest and most essential local newsroom in the area. And we're going to start that immediately. The Post's layoffs is a chance for us to step in and try to fill some of that gap. And we are immediately going to hire 4 journalists and immediately going to start doing the kind of deep local reporting on critical beats that we think the city needs and wants, and that we deserve as citizens. And obviously, this is a baby step. We are not going to have a 100-person metro newsroom as the Washington Post did a few years ago. That's not in the card for us right now. But we're going to immediately start doing a lot more for the city, and I hope that helps make a difference for citizens who need to be informed citizens about where they live, and helps them stay connected to the city. And if you're a reporter laid off from the Post, if you're a reporter not at the Post, and you're interested in joining this project, get in touch with us. And if you're a listener to this podcast and you want to support what we're doing, please know that this costs money and it's an effort. So please consider also becoming a neighbor, a member of CityCast, because right now we're reaching about 50,000 of you with our podcasts and newsletters and social channels. We need to reach a lot more, and we're going to do that by Annie. It's going to work with Mike to make something that is magnificent and has like some of the incredibly useful information that you're going to need to be a great citizen of this region.
Yeah, and if you're not already a neighbor, I wanted to say that you can do that at membership.citycast.fm. It's just $10 a month or $100 for the year. Again, that's membership.citycast.fm. And also the phone call that I got from you, David, telling me about this expansion was really exciting. It feels so gratifying to be at a place that is expanding and is investing in local news, which has, what happened at the Post Wednesday was horrific, but also the local news landscape has been shrinking years and years and years and years before that. So just being at a place that is still investing in coverage of DC feels really exciting and amazing.
And it feels like, look at the way, for people who listen to the pod, the way it has worked is we will typically have an episode where we'll have a guest on who is an expert in something. They're a reporter who covered a great big story, or a book writer, or something like that. And for the most part, these are people whose expertise has been paid for by someone else, not us. And in a world where like the Post is eviscerating its local coverage and presence, it's really cool for us to be like creating some of that content that we help sort of bring into the ecosystem to connect to people who want to connect to their city. That's a really cool move.
So I have been going to South by Southwest in Austin, Texas every year for a minute, and it's truly one of the highlights of my whole year. I go to a ton of conferences and events, and it feels like a whirlwind of lanyards and talks, and I leave actually feeling exhausted. Like, hey, I showed up but have no takeaways. South by Southwest is different because I actually leave feeling nourished and energized for new ideas. Because South by Southwest is where the world's most creative, inspired, and eclectic minds gather to shape what's next. It's the ultimate gathering for the global creative community, where thought leaders, filmmakers, musicians, and other professionals across industries share the same space. And this year, I will actually be there talking about how we can make sense of this very particular moment we're all in media and culture. Innovation, film and TV, music and culture all collide when the 2026 South by Southwest conferences and festivals take over Austin, Texas, this March 12th through March 18th. For one eclectic week, the city becomes a playground for boundary-pushing ideas, world premieres, and live performances that turn into beneficial experiences. I once went to a secret pop-up concert of Solange Knowles at South by Southwest that genuinely changed my life. At South by, you can gain access to new ideas, people, and opportunities that do not happen anywhere else. So start planning your adventure in Austin and secure your badge now at sxsw.com/DC. Life can flip on a dime. 1 minute, everything's normal, and the next, someone else's mistake shakes your world upside down. And that's when you need a team you can count on. NACE Law Group has been standing up for DC families for decades, fighting for neighbors hurt by medical malpractice, wrongful deaths, and serious injuries. They don't just settle quickly or push papers. They dig in, fight hard, and make sure every client gets the justice they deserve. And here's something that I personally love about them. They are a longtime supporter of this very podcast. Because just like us, and just like you, they care about this community and the folks who call it home. So if you've been hurt or someone that you care about has, just pick up the phone. Call NACE Law Group. They'll stand with you, fight for your family, and make sure your rights are protected. And who knows, maybe you'll even see him at a CityCast live show. Visit WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com. That's WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com.
Can we talk about an actual piece of great local journalism that appeared in the Washington Post, I think the day before the axe swung? So DC council member Trayon White, who you may remember as the council member who was indicted for allegedly taking bribes that were on video, expelled from the council, then reelected. The one of the alleged bribers involved was a firm that's part of this world of so-called violence interrupters, which is a program in DC to engage people who have sort of credibility on the quote unquote on the streets to go in and work with young people who are sort of in violence adjacent lives and try to head them off at the pass. This has been historically like a sort of a iffy use of resources because, by definition, the people who are going to be getting the money, a lot of them are people who can have non-traditional resumes. There's not really a good scientific metric for like, was this money well spent, et cetera. And Megan Flynn and Jenny Gathright from the Post, both of whom I'm told have been spared the axe, did a really kind of jaw-dropping report on one of these firms called Life Deeds, whose CEO has emerged as one of the who is in trouble for his own stuff and is emerged as one of the testifiers against Trayon White.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that was so egregious about this is obviously that Life Deeds emerged as presented itself as a solution to a real problem. Like back in 2023, DC had its highest homicide rates since the 90s, looking for tools to fix this. And Life Deeds ended up using more than $400,000 in city funds. So it's just, to me, it's one of those, it's like a classic story that makes your blood absolutely boil and sort of say how did people get away with this for so long, honestly?
So according to the reporting, they're throwing boozy pool parties with bikini chicks dancing around and taking their people on like go-kart expeditions to New Jersey.
That does sound fun.
Probably more fun if somebody else, like the government, is paying your way. So it sounds extra fun. And where the CEO was allegedly like he was using his own house as the headquarters and getting his rent paid at way above the rate for the area. And he was getting it paid twice by two different agencies that he was billing.
It was 5x the market rate, according to the reporting. 5 times. I mean, it's so confounding. I mean, the whole violence interrupter industry is confusing. I've had the pleasure, really, of talking to people who work in this, and we did a series. We had a sponsor interviews around this, and the people who are working in this, there's a true nobility to them, and they, for the most part, most of these people, they're not making a lot of money doing it. They are doing it because they see other people on a bad path and they want to stop them from making the mistakes they've made. And this is like a really direct human to human way of changing people's lives. And it's incredibly noble. And it, as you point out, Mike, it's like very hard to measure, though. It is hard to measure success. Like the success is almost things that don't happen. And it's kind of anecdote. It's like somebody who ends up getting a job. It's someone who ends up not doing something. But like that also means it's vulnerable to exploitation by people who are scummy.
Right. And when you have lousy controls, shysters swoop in. And some of that, like you say, it's because it's hard to measure, but some of it, I think the city government was asleep at the switch here, that they're, this firm in question, according to Megan and Jenny's reporting, they listed, you have to list a board of people who are going to be assuring your competence. There were people who they listed as their board who didn't even know they were on the list. And one was like an estranged brother-in-law. That's that is the kind of thing somebody actually can and should catch, because that's not about like attaching a metric to something that didn't happen.
Yeah. And so that's the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, which is supposed to pay attention to this, seems to have not been paying attention. And if I were Mayor Bowser, I would be having some pretty serious conversations with the folks who oversee that office and folks who oversee them about why, because it's a terrible look. It's a terrible
It's such
look
a bad
for the city.
look. Especially because, again, like we've been talking about, this work this is such important work to do, but the investment in it has not necessarily been there, And so like to have something that goes this awry, it just doesn't help anyone else's case for like, hey, you should invest a lot of money in this other violence interrupter program,
And I think I'm so glad that the Post stepped up on this, because I think there has been a bit of a failing in media too on this, where, it's a noble thing. It has been, this program has been mau-mau'd by people with malign intent, right-wing members of Congress, the DC Police Union, that are trying to forever portray the city as not having their backs, calling this grift and so on. And it effectively gives them ammunition. I'm sort of the view that if you are doing something that is like effectively good for society and good for the most vulnerable people in society, maybe it's not fair, but you have to be even purer in terms of your like accounting and your wonky management of dollars than anyone else has to be.
Right. If some rich bank is spending money on booze-filled parties and go-karting, everyone's like, oh, of course. But if you're
held to a different standard,
you're held to a different standard. That's a really interesting point, Mike. And you're right that now it will be used. This will be used as a cudgel, and I'm sure this office will be defunded in some fashion.
The excellence of this is that I assume that in their reporting of this, there were a lot of people saying, why are you beating up on this noble program? And look at you, elite media, blah, blah. And it was good to tune that out, because this is actually doing violence interrupters the biggest favor you could do, which is to clean up that world in order to preserve it.
And then has Tryon White's trial, I mean, semi-related, been pushed now to June?
It's supposed to be next month, and now it's being pushed because he's having council issues.
With a council COUNSEL, not
SEL.
COUNCIL issues. Although he's probably having those too.
But again, it's so embarrassing. And here's a person who represents what has historically been the most vulnerable ward in the city, who stands for a lot of things that I think a lot of local people care about, in terms of like trying to bring along the last, the least, the lost. And yet his name and what he has allegedly done and what he may soon be convicted of having done, and the fact that his constituents were willing to, in a very close race, re-elect him, is going to wind up becoming an anchor around the city that will give ammunition to people who, for completely other reasons, wish DC ill. I was so pissed last year when that re-election campaign happened. There were 3 candidates. Trayon White won with like somewhere in the 30s of percentage. And nobody in the political establishment had worked to get one of the 2 other candidates out of the race. This is where, if you have power, you can say, like, hey, Annie, I want you to drop out of this race, but there's a job waiting for you in such and such place, or, I'll hook you up next time, or whatever. Use your muscle to make it a 2-way race that he probably would have lost. Because it is going to be embarrassing and dangerous for the district. It's too bad we can't be just as oafish as some other cities, but we can't. But no one stepped up to do that.
It is one of my absolute favorite things when I get to do an ad read for something that I was already looking forward to doing. Because ever since I saw Amy Sherald's absolutely breathtaking portrait that she painted of First Lady Michelle Obama, I have been obsessed with her work ever since. So I am so geeked to have the chance to see her exhibition. It's Amy Sherald, American Sublime at the Baltimore Museum of Art. This exhibition showcases 38 of her breathtaking paintings, created from 2007 to the present, from her early, rarely seen works to her iconic, larger-than-life portraits that I first fell in love with. Over 52,000 people have already experienced it, making it the Baltimore Museum of Art's biggest exhibition in more than 2 decades. It would be a great day trip activity from DC for a date night or just to get out of the city. Tickets are just $18 for adults, and pro tip, it is free on Thursday evenings from 5 to 9 p.m. Buy tickets and plan your visit at artbma.org, and I'll see you there.
Let's talk about the new baby elephant at the zoo.
Oh, yes.
David's been waiting for this.
I love baby elephants.
Just to be clear, Plotz is anti-panda, pro-elephant.
You're anti-panda?
Oh, yeah. Well, Annie, we're going to have a whole special week-long series about that.
Why? Just because they're slow?
That'll be one of the reporters we hire will just cover pandas.
Jesus.
Plotz is Washington's leading panda foe.
But I love elephants so much. I'm so excited to have a baby elephant. Baby elephants are probably the greatest animals.
So for those who don't know, at the National Zoo, a new baby elephant was recently born, and the zoo is holding a naming contest. They're giving 4 name choices, and you have to provide a small donation in order to actually vote. But there are 4 names to choose from. Lin Mai, which means spirit blossom. Tao Ni, which means gentle and beloved. Tu An, which means bright and intelligent, or my personal favorite, Tuet, which means snow. And that one is the one that feels, most relevant to our current situation. But also, what would you guys, if you could just choose any name, what would you name this new baby elephant?
Junk in the trunk.
Oh my God.
That's terrible.
Boo.
That's awful. Just because it has trunk.
How many elephant puns can you come up with?
Okay,
you don't need an elephant pun. I don't love the idea of giving it Tusker-Do. I like not giving it a name in English. Like these names are they Vietnamese? And yeah, I think it's an elephant living in America that's going to have an American life, and it should have an American name. And in fact, it should have a Washington name, and therefore the name that our elephant should be is John Riggins. Who would know?
Defend your
Diesel.
position.
John Riggins, probably the most iconic running back in Washington football history, just like an incredible character, famous drinker, the way elephants are famous for how they drink, bullish in his manner, but filled with bravado and joy, and just a DC icon of the highest order.
And elephants are also known for sassing Supreme Court justices.
Just the way Riggo did.
Just the way Riggo did.
I am sad that Snowcrete wasn't an option. I really think that we should find ways to memorialize our current moment. And this recent storm and all of the brouhaha that has surrounded it and the city's response feels like it's going to remain in the city's memory for a while. It's possible that it won't, but this sort of feels like something we're going to be talking about 7 years from now, being like, do you remember Snowcrete? And I kind of like the idea that we would, that the animals born at the zoo would like kind of be part of DC history in that sense.
Well, people should send CityCast their favorite elephant names, and we'll find something to do with it publicly. Maybe we can send our own letter to the zoo. But just for the record, the zoo has not, sadly, opened it up to general public write-in voting. They have limited us to just these choices. They have controlled the primary process. The party decides.
They have. They're probably saving us from ourselves, but it is a little bit sad. Write in with your favorite names to us.
All right, we put out news on Wednesday that we were expanding our local coverage in light of recent news. And our CityCast neighborhood responded in a huge, huge way. So many of you stepped up for DC Media, stepped up for your city. You became paying neighbors. So I apologize in advance, but stick with me because this is a long list of people who really, really, really deserve a thank you from us, and I hope from the whole city of DC. So thank you to our new neighbors: Sydney L., Catherine K., Elizabeth O., Evan I., Laura S., David K., Jonathan R., Emily M., Daniel D., Chelsea B., Anu M., Sandesh D., David L., Tamura P., Edri I., Vijayendra R., Alexa D., Christopher C., Megan C., Rachel L., Kim R., Seth G., Kara C., Barbara S., Courtney H., Kelly S., John W., Paul D., Patrick P., Aaliyah G., Laura W., Cynthia S., Lisa K., Nina C., Rosemary R., Elizabeth H., Marjorie C., Stephanie B., Kumar C., and Ryan W., and Charissa B. You guys, thank you so much. Today, paid subscribers get a bonus 4th roundup chat about even more congressional interference in DC. If you want to be sure you always get the full episode, please become a member. Head to membership.citycast.fm and sign up. It's only $10 a month, and members get ad-free listening, exclusive members events, and an extra events newsletter every week. Again, that's membership.citycast.fm. All right, well, that is all for today here on CityCast DC. Our production team this week was Annie Reese, Julia Karen, Ash Durbin, Priyanka Tilve, and Elizabeth Kama. Newsletter editor Kayla Cote-Stemmerman and Ash Durbin wrote our fabulous newsletter CityCast DC this week. And our hosts are Bridget Todd and me, Michael Schaefer. Music is by Alex Roldan, with additional music from Philip Ayers and Rosedale from Triple Scoop Music via Getty Images. If you enjoyed the show, seriously, write us with your own suggestion for an elephant name. We'll share it. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Bye.